So one of the most commonly asked questions I get on stream is how do you set up your arena frames? And what add-on is that? So just before I get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the reason I have it set up this way. The biggest reason why I have it set up is so that enemy cooldown tracking becomes much more organized. Rather than having a clusterfuck of cooldowns in one area with Omnibar, like sometimes I'll go into people's streams and it's just like one area and they're tracking like 30 different icons from three different classes. It just becomes a headache, you know? So being able to look at individual player frames to see CDs allows me to track specific cooldowns in specific moments with much more ease. This helps me save a fraction of a second here, a fraction of a second there during an arena match, which ultimately adds up to many seconds of delayed awareness if you really add it up, right? So it's little micro awareness and reaction times which really do make a difference in the big picture. Still to this day, I'm constantly working on increasing my awareness and looking for the best kill windows, while conversely trying to keep an eye on what offensive CDs the enemy team may have, so I'm best prepared to react to the enemy goes. So, for example, being in good defensive positioning, being ready to eat hunter traps on my healer, and also knowing when it's safe to push in, stuff like that. So here you'll see that my actual arena frames itself are sArena with the Zaryu layout, and the CD tracking portion of it is GladiusEX. So they're actually two separate add-ons that I put together to create what I have here. So GladiusEX actually has its own arena frames built into it, just like sArena and regular Gladius. But the reason I use sArena tied with GladiusEX is because I think the UI for it is a lot cleaner. All of this just comes down to efficiency with a splash of personal preference. If you take a look at my UI, I'll actually track macro CDs, like big offensive and defensive CDs through my GladiusEX, but I still continue to track micro CDs through Omnibar. So since I'm a mage main player, micro CDs to track would be things such as kicks, grounding totems, spell reflect, and shadow word death. Things that will stop me from actually getting casts off, but most importantly my CC casts like Ring of Frost and Polymorphs, since those are my primary tools to secure CC and close out games, right? And I'll position that directly above my cast bar, so I'm looking in one specific area of my UI to play this casting and juking minigame. And then for the macro, aka the big CDs, I will track them beside the actual arena frames. So that way, if I'm trying to track macro CDs, I can just look in one area. So if it's like, I can, for example, right here, if I'm trying to get information on the enemy warrior, I can just look in one area and I get all the information I need. Okay, the warrior, he has wall here, he has rally, he has trinket, he's at, X percentage HP, and he's on X DRs. I can just look at one section instead of having to look in the middle of the screen, then down below to see what he has. It just, you look in one area, boom, you get all the info you need, done. You're not wasting seconds here or there looking at too many different places, right? So it just comes down to pure efficiency. All right, so now let's hop into the actual add-on setup tutorial portion of the video. So first things first, you want to make sure you have sArena and GladiusEX installed. These are the two combinations that are required to have what I have. So sArena and GladiusEX. Once you have them installed, you want to type /sArena in the chat, and then go under layout. Instead of Blizz Arena, you want to go to the Zaryu version. This is just, in my opinion, it looks a lot better. You can press test. And here I already have it set up by default to the sizing that I like. Yours will probably look a lot smaller when you first download it. But for me, I like to scale it a lot higher. Not just the arena frames, but the cast bars as well. I increase the width and the scale. The reason I have it bigger like this is because my awareness is really bad. So back when I first came back to the game, I would let enemy teams get random polys and fears off that I shouldn't be. So what I do is I make the cast bars bigger, so it's just much easier to see what's being casted in the peripheral vision. So if you want, you can go ahead and copy my settings here. If not, adjust it how you'd like. The most important thing though is to make sure you leave a little bit of space in between each frame so you can track the CDs there with GladiusEX. What I actually like to do is I go to global settings and I uncheck show names. So I uncheck that because that way I don't really need to see the names of the players, and if I want to see it, I can just target them and see it on the portrait frames. And it also just saves space, so I can put the cooldowns there instead. Also, you want to make sure to go under racials and enable human and undead, so you can track human, trinket, and undead will have forsaken. Those are really, really good information to have. So once you've done that, you want to type GladiusEX, and then here there's going to be two bars. There's going to be the enemy arena frames and then the party arena frames. So for me, I use raid frames for that instead. So you're just gonna disable the show party frames for now, and just have the arena frames right here. Secondly, you're gonna pretty much disable everything except for the cooldown portion. So because we're using sArena here instead because it looks better, we're just gonna go back to GladiusEX and under arena, just disable everything. So under announcements, just disable this, cast bar disable, class icons, all this, except for cooldowns, you're gonna disable it all because you're not gonna need any of this. If you want to just use GladiusEX instead of sArena, go for it. But like I said, I just don't like the way it looks. So, and then after that, you wanna go to cooldowns, press group 2, and then go to cooldowns, scroll all the way down, go to PvP trinkets, and uncheck all of this as well, because once again we already have that on sArena. And now all you will be left with is cooldowns now. Now before we do anything else, you want to go back to general. Oh, sorry, go back to general under arena, and where it says group unit frames, you want to uncheck that because right now they're all kind of tied together. So if you uncheck it, now you can individually drag them like this and put them wherever you want. So it starts from top to bottom, arena 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna increase the sizing of these icons just a tad. Go under group 1, general, icon size. I'm just gonna up it a little bit to maybe like 25. And then I'm gonna take off the vertical and horizontal padding / spacing, just tighten them up a little bit. And then we're just gonna drag them directly above arena 1, 2, and 3. Next up, these black bars, you don't wanna see those, right? So you wanna go under general, frame background color, drag this all the way down to minus, so that way they become transparent, and then press OK. I feel like in the arena, it actually gets highlighted like this when you target people. So actually, before we do that, we're gonna make the size of the box tiny. I couldn't figure out a way to hide this. So what I did was I would just like make it extremely tiny. So that way you just can't even see it. So bar width, just decrease the size of it for now to 5, 5, and 5. So you can just kind of barely see it. And then use that to drag it exactly on arena 1, 2, and 3. So after you drag them, you want to go under frame background color and drop it all the way down to 0, so that way it becomes transparent. You can't see it anymore. Next up is the cooldowns you actually want to track. So this is personal preference, but a general rule of thumb is to just track major defensive and major offensive cooldowns. You don't want to over track. That's a big issue. If you track too many cooldowns, it's just information overload, right? So you just want to track the most important things. So I'm not going to go over every class here, but I'll just give a couple examples. So against DKs, if you're a caster, seeing AMS and AMZ is really nice, right? So I check those. If you're playing RMP, Icebound Fortitude, that's good to track as well, so you know when they have an extra out of a stun. And what else? Uncheck all this, uncheck all this. That's pretty much all you would need against a DK, I think, is AMS, AMZ, and Icebound Fortitude. Against DHs, just to start, eventually you can slowly add more, but just to start, I like to track defensives first. So as a mage, knowing when they have reverse magic is good, so when they can reverse your polys. Blur is good to track. Darkness is one of their biggest cooldowns, and then you probably would want to track Netherwalk. So for DH, it would be reverse magic, blur, darkness, and nether walk. And then you can just go down each one and knock them out. Just use your own judgment, but like I said, don't over track, just under track at first, and then you can slowly start adding more things to it. So yeah, that's the tutorial. If you guys want to get my entire complete UI, I do have it available for Twitch subscribers. So all you have to do is just sub to my Twitch and then link your Twitch account in your Discord settings. Join my Discord by typing !Discord in my Twitch chat, and then there'll be a UI download link, and you can just download my entire UI if you like the whole thing. But most people, I think, generally just want the GladiusEX sArena portion. So if you have any issues, feel free to leave questions down in the comments below, and I'll try my best to answer all of them. But aside from that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on stream.